68. Is that it? Just 68? Hey there, welcome to my epic journey. This is Brendan DeVere. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and sharing your time with me. I do appreciate that. Here we are on the journey from 600 to 0 to 600 plus and everything that falls in between. The last few days, my dad and nephew came down, so we've been kind of hanging out and doing kind of some touristy and just hanging out stuff. Kind of pulled me away from work a little bit. But as I do talk about on here, the things in between, because it's about growing to a level of 600 or more agents. And I bring this up often, like in the summertime. Like I said, sometimes this might have not been the great time to do this, but also I want people to understand like how realistic it is when you have other interests in your life, including family, that you just don't you're not going to. I get it. Some people are all the grind. I do like to grind, and I will, but I also will spend time with my family. And this episode will be a little bit. I think it's thought provoking, in the way of just like how to view something, or like the type of the point of view and the perspective that you put on it. And it was something that I did a while back ago, but to give you kind of like a frame of reference, so. Today, my dad and I were out. I took him to work with me. If you're friends with me on Facebook, I did a story today on there, a Facebook story that was, take your dad to work today. Threw a little poll on there. Have you ever taken a parent to work? Surprisingly, most everyone has answered no, which it's kind of interesting because I would think that more people would have done it. But the thought that I had today kind of brought me back. Because it's easy to get lost in like the minutia, like getting busy during a work week. Like he knows that I have work to do when he comes down here. He was here last month. I went back up there this month, and then he's back down here at the end of the month. So we've seen each other a number of times. But I kind of caught myself today. So I took him to work with me. Went on a couple meetings. Went and grabbed some things we had to grab. But we stopped for lunch at one point. And, I turned to him and I said, the best part about being able to work like remotely and work from anywhere at any time is that the worst part is that you do that too. And I'm sitting here, like we're eating lunch, and I catch myself as I'm just hammering away at text messages and emails and responding to people, all like 90% business and 10%, personal, which was, Eva was texting me about some things during that time, but most of it was all business and talking about recruiting and hey, I got this plan. We should do this. We should do that. But I was sitting there, and by the time I looked up, like we went to Freddy's Steak Burgers. My dad loves burgers, so we went out and had those. But at one point I looked and I was like, my burger's almost gone. I haven't even paid attention to any of it, and I was just and he was over there just silent eating while I'm sitting here on the phone just taking a bite. Take a drink of soda, like take a bite. And I thought to myself, I'm like, man, this must be fun for him, right? Sitting here watching his son just like not engage any type of conversation, just sit there on the phone the entire time. And it made me think back to a story I wrote. So this story that I wrote a while ago was about this right here, this perspective that kind of blew me away. And this is not has nothing to do with going out and recruiting, but this is more of on a personal level, and like on a level of having relationships and things like that. And for instance, in my case, like luckily for me is that my sister lives like 30 seconds from my dad. Small town, they live like 4 blocks away, super close. And I'm not talking, if you live in Vegas and you say 4 blocks away, you're like, oh yeah, that's like, it could be like almost 4 miles in some cases. But this is like 4 neighborhood, like not city blocks, like neighborhood blocks away. So they're super close. So that is a benefit that she's still there and gets to hang out with him. But this story I wrote was something that kind of caught me off guard, and the way that it hit me. I used to have a podcast called The 1% Journey. I wrote this during that time. And so bear with me here, because I realized that I'm not a very good reader on camera or on microphone, but I'm going to share this story that I wrote to kind of give you some perspective of what what came rushing back to me today as I'm sitting here trying to squeeze work in and hang out with my dad as well. So it's titled 68. So 68, is that it? Just 68 more times. I saw a good friend of mine recently, and he asked me if I had still been writing my stories. He hadn't seen any on Facebook lately, and he wanted to know what was going on. Unfortunately, my answer was not really. Then a couple days later, I got a text from my good friend Cliff. Hey brother, Happy New Year. I haven't seen you post in a while, just making sure everything is okay. I text him back right away, assuring that everything was okay. It felt great to, one, have people notice that I hadn't been sharing my stories, and two, reach out to make sure I was okay. I'm grateful for both of these things. Really, there were a couple of reasons I had been lacking in the storytelling department lately. The first is a little superficial, I'll admit. I had a streak of 168 straight days of completing daily stories, and on day 169, I submitted the story too late. Streak broken. It took the wind out of my sails, causing me to become a little more relaxed about my daily writing. I still wrote, but not as often, and nothing made it further than my notebook. The second reason has a deeper meaning. Just before the story stopped, my dad and I went on a road trip. Eventually, our conversation ended up discussing the lifespan of the males in our family. After a quick discussion, it was decided that 85 was a good number. I thought about that conversation over the next few days and started doing the math. Well, Dad is 68. Males in our family lived until 85. That is 17 years. Great. 17 years seems like a long time. But then I broke it down. Since we don't live near each other, we only end up seeing each other about 4 times per year. That's when it hit me. 17 times 4 equals 68. 68 more times that I will see my dad. That's not enough. Obviously, this isn't an exact figure. There are a number of variables to consider. But when it's presented this way, presented as a 2-digit number, reality hits hard. So for the remainder of his visit, I focused more on him, paying more attention to his mannerisms, and listening more closely to the stories he'd shared with me a dozen times before. I dedicated more of my time to him and less time to telling stories. So if you've been wondering what happened to my stories, that's the gist of it. Well, that along with some other things I'm working on, but those I will save for another day. For now, I need to figure out a way to double, triple, or even quadruple that number. Like I said, it's not enough. I have to have more than 68. So this was written in 2019. So that was 4 years ago. So 4 years ago. So that would be, so my dad is 73 now, and to 85 would be 12 years. So now instead of 68, 12 times 4 is 48. So now that number is drastically smaller in that short amount of time. And it is something that is difficult to think of, especially when you're in the moment. Like I was sitting there just working away. And this story from almost 5 years ago just popped up in my mind as I was sitting here, like ignoring my dad, right? Like as he's sitting in the same room, across from the table, I'm sitting here like boom, 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 boom. Look at this. So the reason I want to share that with you is because these are the things that we miss out on sometimes as we're trying to grow. And growth is awesome. Don't get me wrong. And I know, we put a lot of stock and a lot of value in those people that want to grind and like have time, they aren't necessarily concerned with this type of thing. For me, I am, especially, one of my best friends, he passed away at 43, just, a couple months ago. And like those types of things where, it's the things that happen to us while we're trying to build. And so this isn't necessarily a RevShare growing thing or an Asian Attraction growing episode, more so an episode on, taking some time to appreciate those who have appreciated us or have done a lot for us. And my dad has done that. If you've listened to this show at all, you probably heard me talk about my mom passed away when I was 18. She was sick from about the time I was 11, 12 years old, and didn't really know me by the time I was about 13 or 14. Didn't know who I was anymore. But my dad, who's here now, he took her. He was a school teacher. He took her to school with him. He bathed her. He fed her. Everything that he could do until he physically couldn't care for her anymore. And so this is the type of person that I'm hoping that I get way more than 48 more times with. I don't mean the 48 more days. I mean like 48 more like hangout sessions. I'm hoping that it goes well beyond that. Obviously, I hope that he lives much, much longer than 85. But also, I hope that we can figure out a way that we can, see each other more often than just, the 4 times a year, which this year was a good year because my daughter graduated. He came down for that. Just brought my nephew down. I, had to go up to Washington. I'll probably likely be going up again next month. So we'll get a chance to see. So it'll probably be more than that 48 times. But even if it's 10 more, like it doesn't seem, even if it's double that, it doesn't seem like enough. So just want to share that kind of personal story that hit me today as we were sitting here at lunch, kind of drifting off. And it's interesting that we can get back to these moments that we, when we learn something or think a certain way, it doesn't just automatically click for us always and forever, right? We have to be reminded about things like that. This one today was a reminder of this. Right after this, I'm gonna shut it down for the night, and I'm gonna go down and hang out with him. We're gonna watch some baseball or something, some TV, and hang out. Do whatever we do for the next. What time is it now? 5:15. We'll go do whatever, but we're gonna hang out. I'm not gonna be glued to my phone and up here working into the midnight hours just to be bringing on more recruits. So that's just something I want to share with you. And calculate your loved ones. I'm not trying to have people calculate an expiration date, but this really changed my perspective on the quality of our visits and the quantity, the quality, and also the recency, or not the frequency in which we get these opportunities to visit. So hopefully that sparked a little something in you, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great one.